Syria is right now as complex an issue as Israel used to be. Now you not only have Muslims and Jews and Christians focused on Jerusalem, you now have them focused on Syria in toto, and you have the entire Muslim world focused there because they have all poured money into both the Shiite and Sunni sides of the fight. And remember, there's 6, 8 different, 12 different factions. Many of them are mercenaries, trading sides as fast as you can. So when you talk about a gas attack, I can tell you who did it. I can't give you the proof, but it's easy. It's very easy to see who did it. And I'll explain that in a second. Syria, as we've discussed so many times, it's the war of Armageddon. And whether it be Cicada 3301 references warning us of this, whether it be anyone who can just look at Netanyahu's criminality, whether it can be anyone who examines the Golan Heights was stolen for the oil that's there, for Genie Oil Company and the horrible people, Dick Cheney, Rupert Murdoch, Wosley, Rothschild, the evilest people around are all getting their piece of the pie, both with that oil in the Golan Heights and the oil that they want off the coast. So what we really have here is not just oil. This is the Greater Israel Project. It has little to do with your common person who's following Judaism. It has little to do with Hebrews. It has a lot to do with the climate that there could be a democratic Western-style nation. And let's not forget, I might as well just say this, even though people are going to question me on this and how I know this, but of course Israel has tactical nuclear weapons. And Israel has one of the most powerful militaries because it's backed up by our military. So when it comes down to it, if the U.S. backs up Israel, Israel might as well be the 51st state of America. That is nothing to do with Zionism and its 10 forms. It has nothing to do with the rogue Mossad. It has nothing to do with those people who become fundamental and radical based upon any theocracy, religion, or belief. And you have the Christians, the Muslims, and the Jews all focused on the playing field, what we call Armageddon, outside of Tel Megiddo. So that's outside of Damascus. So it was predicted that this would happen again, but it didn't take a genius to know that. This is the third one. Same thing. They set up a perimeter that today, I heard President Donald Trump say, I think yesterday, that they are trying to break through that perimeter to get people inside, and they can't. Now, let me repeat that. They are trying to get people through that perimeter, but they can't. Now, you are in a war-torn, has been a civil war with 8, 10 factions all fighting each other, and you can set up a perimeter outside of Damascus where they've been bombing, and it's the rebel headquarters of one of the factions, and they can set up a perimeter where only the white helmets, they're all fake, they're not even medics, they're the ones who've set up the 2 previous attacks, and the 2 previous attacks were such pathetic false flags that anyone even looking at it could see that from the pictures that were staged, even if you had no other information. We're not seeing any pictures this time, of course, and we're not being shown any intelligence from satellite photography as we were the last time. So you set up a perimeter, you let in the white helmets. Oh, wait, they're supposed to be your enemies. Oh, well, yeah, you let in the white helmets who basically do not help anybody except the one faction who is paying them at that moment. That's how it works. Go back and look at the record. And then you let in a UN humanitarian group. Why? They weren't there before. Where were they before? How come that group always shows up right before a gas attack? And then you let in 2 other groups, which are pro-Soros, paid for by Tides Foundation and Open Society, and they too have humanitarian names. One of them has the name, I think, Democracy in it. I can't remember. 2 of them. They always come in. They're the same groups. 4 groups go in. They set up the photo opportunity. They get a battle going so that Assad's group is bombing them with planes. And then they set off a barrel bomb. Now, mind you, fighter planes don't deliver barrel bombs, and that's the only gas that they have in Syria that was left over unaccounted for were barrel bombs. They do not have any gas that can be mounted on a fighter jet that was, in fact, bombing Douma, that area, right? So there it is, same exact scenario as before. This one was again near Damascus. The other one was in a very tightly held rebel faction area where they could do this quite easily. And in the two before, they brought in the bodies that they then they didn't give them gas. They weren't gassed. If you look at the body and talk with any doctor, they'll say no. They were probably given an injection overdose of opium, and so those bodies, they weren't gassed. And we now have reports out of Damascus, all of Damascus, and this happened right outside of Damascus. No gas victims have come into any hospitals in Damascus. They just have had people come in with, they've been bombed and they were shot and they were bombed. No gas. So they set up the barrel bomb. They set it off. They kill their own people. Then they set in the four groups, and the four groups then take some pictures of some nonsense. The pictures they took last time were absolutely pathetic. Anyone could have realized it was a false flag. Now, why did Donald Trump then bomb Syria? Here's the reality. Bashar al-Assad, like his father, is one of the most criminal and vicious CIA agents in the world. If you don't realize that the CIA has been causing chaos in Syria since basically Saudi Arabia lost control of it, and that's what the Sunnis are fighting about. These are holy lands for them. Damascus is particularly holy land for both Shiite and Sunni. It's where the Al-Mahdi, the Messiah of the Islamic faith, will return. As a matter of fact, according to the Shiites, Al-Mahdi is already incarnated because the meteorite came, the red glow over Iraq and the death in Iraq, and now the destruction of Damascus. When Damascus is totally destroyed is when the Islamic Messiah will come back. The Sunnis are not 100% convinced that it's focused on Damascus, but they believe the rest of the story. So they're still fighting over Damascus because Saudi Arabia used to have it until we chopped up the Middle East and created this problem and promised the British, promised the Jews in the world that they would have a country to go back to and they would create it for them. And that's exactly what happened. And then when they left, they gave it over to, unfortunately, not only the Jews, but to 10 different types of Zionists. So then they are following what is called the Greater Israel Project, which is to take over Israel, not all of Israel, Palestine, Lebanon, Jordan, Syria, Iraq, and all the way to Iran. And that is the Greater Israel Project. It is the British who are behind that. They wanted to control all the oil. This plan was made a long time ago. It just still continues by fundamentalists like Netanyahu. So do we need to worry about a war right now? Absolutely pray that Trump does not send any soldiers in. Do not send any soldiers in. Because Russia is there. They already have soldiers there. Turkey, who is no friend of ours, and we need to get all of our troops and that air base out of Turkey that was supporting the Syrians through all the different factions that we paid. Remember, Obama paid ISIS alone $1 billion a year. $1 billion a year to fight in Syria. When that $1 billion, and people don't play like this didn't happen. Trump came out and said, we are stopping the $1 billion we are paying ISIS. And they're going, what are you talking about?
Well, as we know in our citizen intelligence reports and the headline news, we've been showing that if Hillary was elected, these wars were already planned. Not sure exactly where it would be, but World War III was very important. And it's still important to the banksters. Their system is getting ready to collapse. They need war in order to prop up all this whole fake economy, the corruption at the Federal Reserve, the central banks, the Rothschilds. They have to have war.
That's what it's about, Betsy.
That bottom line. So tell the bankers, sorry, game over. We the people see what you're doing. We call out your false flags and we're not going to war.
The bankers loan to both sides. They win. They sell weapons to both sides. And then afterwards, the losers, they take their money anyway. And then they take their property and their resources, which were held as collateral. So it's a game that's been going on since Venice did this during the Crusades.